I was just going to hang there. So this might still come through. Yeah.
If it does, then that's great. If it doesn't, we've got a backup here.
I think it's going.
Oh, there you are.
Number.
Okay, John's in the room as John.
Progress.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, or at least afternoon from Vientiane Chun Lao, where I am, and I think two of our other presenters are today. This is the last half day of the Asia Pro Bono Conference, the last half day. So, and it's been a wonderful conference to date. And I think that this session, not that I think, I'm confident and positive that this session is going to be adding to that. And so all of the sessions are important that we've had for these last 2.5 days. But I can tell you that, you know, in the title of this session, Pro Bono Reporting, a Benefit and a Must, and the word must, I can tell you this is an absolutely essential session when we're talking about the theme of this conference, which is institutionalizing pro bono and access to justice systems. So throughout this session, we're going to be going over a little bit about the idea of reporting pro bono. We're going to give some examples. We're going to share. You're actually going to do a little bit of reporting. And hopefully after this is going to give you both ideas and real good mechanisms on how to further report on pro bono and also inspire you to report. So with that, I'm Bruce Lasky. John, I'm going to pass this over to you to introduce yourself briefly, and then to Juanita, okay? John, over to you just for a quick introduction.
Okay, thanks, Bruce, and hello, Juanita. Look, I've ran the Australian Pro Bono Centre for the past 15 years and retired recently, but I've certainly had a lot of experience with reporting pro bono and reporting mechanisms. We helped set up the reporting mechanism in England as well, the collaborative plan. And, you know, to start off, I just want to say one thing is reporting is really important. It does drive the uptake of pro bono. So it'd be nice to talk about that, about how you might report your pro bono in your country or in your circumstance. I think that's the thing, and work out how that might help grow pro bono in the Asian region. So we're going to go into a poll, aren't we, Bruce?
I think first Juanita's gonna introduce herself. Yeah.
Right.
Great. Sorry, so John and I are sitting next to each other. I'm going to move away there.
Sure, I'll drop my volume.
Oh, okay, great. The joys of working virtually and in this hybrid model. So, hi everyone. I'm Jodita Brito Menon, and I'm part of the Trust Law Asia team as legal program manager. And it's an absolute honor to be amidst. Actually, on my screen, I see myself between John and Bruce right now. So to be in the midst of these two stalwarts of pro bono is an absolute honor, and extremely grateful to be here today. Trust Law coordinates pro bono service support across the globe, and my job is making sure that's possible across Asia. So extremely happy to be here and join you all today.
Wonderful. So thank you both. And with that, I think, John, you're going to take this forward. And this is about pro bono reporting. And I think we're going to do a little bit of that. Isn't that correct, John? John, you're on mute.
We're going to.
Still on mute. John, you're still on mute.
Sorry, how's that now? It's when you're in the same room, it's
you're good.
Tricky. We're turning it on and turning it off, but I think we've got it sorted now. Juanita's gone over to the corner, and I'm at the table, so we should be okay. Yeah, we've got a poll. Can we put the poll up on the screen now? Which will then ask you to to fill out. It's not that complex, but then we'll get some really interesting data. You can see there. It's how many questions in all. It's a few more than what I thought. You've got about 20 seconds a question. That's the thing. Gee, it could take a little while, Bruce. But anyway, let's start at the top. So gender, I'm sure both of you've got that by now.
That's okay. So everybody, we're gonna take about 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes. We want you to do this poll. So please, everybody, look at the poll and please do the poll. Okay. So I see there's 51 people participating. If we could please have you start doing the poll.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bruce. And can I just interrupt for the fifth and sixth question?
You can.
Can I explain? Yes. โอเคเจ้าสวัสดีผู้เข้าร่วมเนาะสำหรับท่านใดที่เป็นคนลาวมันจะมีอยู่ข้อที่5กับข้อที่6เนาะที่ว่าบ่สามารถแปลได้เนื่องจากจำนวนตัวพยัญชนะมันจำกัดเนาะอยู่ในซูมนี่แต่ว่าตอนนี้น้องได้copy paste ลงทั้งแชทแล้วเนาะสามารถอ่านทวนคืนได้สำหรับคำถามข้อที่5กับ6เข้าใจ Yes, go on, Bruce.
Okay, everybody, so let's start having you fill out this poll. The first question is your gender, male, female, other, prefer not to say, and we'll start going down. Okay, everybody start, please, filling out the poll. Great. We're going to give about 20 seconds a question. 20 seconds a question, okay? Sawitnati, Yisi Witnati, okay? 20 seconds a question, okay? And then I think, yep.
And if anyone's got questions about any of the questions, please ask.
Yep. If you're not sure what the question means, please ask us. Please ask us. So we'll take about 5 minutes or so to have this poll done. Okay.
I think we've only got 5 people at the moment completing the poll. Well, it's gone up to 6. It's gone up to 6. So
come on, let's get people on here. We got 56 people in the room. We have 56 people in the room. We see 6 people doing this poll. Let's get they're not hard questions. Everybody, let's get you doing the poll, doing the poll, doing the poll. Great, we're up to 7. We're at 7. Jet Kun. Okay, we're at 7. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. We're at 8. We got only up to 8. That's perfect. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. If you just join the room, if you just join in, just jump onto the poll. It won't take you that long to do. It's 10 questions. And just let's get you doing the poll. We're at 53 people in the room. We've got only about 10 people right now doing the poll. We need to get up more. Let's get more.
yeah, the number's going up slowly. We're encouraging anyone who's online.
We're going slowly. All right, we're good. We're good. You're doing great. You're doing great. Yep, everyone, you're doing great. You're at 13 now. You're doing great. You're doing great. It's not hard. It's good questions, and you're You're reporting pro bono. All right, we're at 16. Fantastic. 17. We're at 17 people. Let's keep it going. More and more. Let's go. Let's go. Tip, you can't see it. Are you not able to see the poll? I see it. Tips for some reason in the chat. She's not able to see the poll. I don't know why. If other people besides Tip can't see the poll, let us know. I'm not sure, Tip. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, I can explain. เจ้าติบมันจะมีไอคอนมาอยู่ข้างๆ participant เขียนว่าโพเจ้าคลิกใส่ในตัวโพหันแล้วก็สามารถตอบคำถามได้เลย
We're at 21 people. Oh my God. Fantastic. We're good. We're good. We're good. 21. Yep, we're good. Keep going. All right. We're having more people join, which is okay. People had a little late lunch, but I understand, especially if you were in the justice education session last one. We had beautiful food from Nepal, Laos, and the Philippines. Or at least we saw beautiful food. We're at 21. Let's get more people. We have 58 people in this session. We have 21 people reporting. Okay, but let's get more. Let's get more. We're up at 22. Fantastic. We're at 22. Let's keep it going. Keep it going. 23. Yep, there we go.
Excellent. I can't see the poll I can't see the poll anymore, Bruce, but I'm on a phone.
I can see it. I'm seeing it. Yeah, I got it. We're good. And we're about 6. We'll bring it to 10 minutes, John. We're at 7 minutes now. We'll get it to 10 minutes. So we're going to keep it open for another about 3 minutes. Another 3 minutes. Let's get this up. Come on. We can do this, everyone. Great, great, great. Okay, we're still at 23. Let's get a few more people. We're keeping the poll open for another 2.5 minutes. Okay. Sangnati Kun. Okay. We're 23 out of 60. At least we have 60 people in the session, but okay, another 2 minutes, a little bit more than 2 minutes. We're going to keep it open. Another 2 minutes to keep it open. Great. Great. Wow, I see the results. So I'm very happy with the results, I have to tell you, but we have a little less than 2 minutes. I'm looking at the results and I can tell you the results are great. Let's add into these results. Please add into these results. We're at 26 people. Fantastic. Got about 1.5 minutes left. About 1.5 minutes left. And I think you're going to be happy with the results. Okay. We're 27 people. We got a little bit more than 1 minute to go. $28 people. You're doing beautiful. Oh my gosh. We're 29 people. Great. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Come on, we can do
29
30
people. Great, great.
people out there.
Let's get to 30. We're at 29. We're at 29. We have 1 minute to go. Come on, let's get up. We're at 29. Can we get to 30 people? Although 29 is good, but I think we're almost at the halfway. Yeah. Yeah. 50% is pretty good. Okay. Oh, we're at 30. We hit 30. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. All right. We got it. I may give them another minute. John, we'll go to 11 minutes. Is that okay? We'll just, instead of 10, we have a little bit more than 1 minute left. A little bit more than 1 minute left.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. A little bit more than 1 minute left. I don't know if we could possibly get to 31, but we'll see. Right, okay. All right, less than a minute to go, everyone. Less than a minute to go. We got 30 people reporting. 30 people reporting. Fantastic. Okay. About 30 seconds, about 30 seconds to go. Okay. Terrific. About 15 seconds, 15 seconds. We're at 30 people. 30 people is pretty good. We got 30 out of 65, but that's okay. That's okay. We did good. Okay, we got about 5 seconds. 5 seconds, 4, 3. We're going to close this poll, and we are closing the poll. We're going to close the poll, and now we're going to publish the results. Everybody, give yourself a thumbs up. Let's close the poll. I know a lot of you tried. You did really well, and just fantastic. So now let's look at these results. Okay, Juanita, do you want to take us through the results? Can you see the results?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you. Can everyone else hear her? If you can hear her, let's get a thumbs up. If you can't
Yes,
hear her,
I can.
okay. All right. So let's just start with, we had 60, 65, 66, but a lot of people joined late. When we started the poll, we had about 25 or 30 people that when we started it, and we had a total of 31 people try to report. So from where we started, we almost had 100% of where we started, which is great. So Juanita, let's take us through this poll and what the results say.
Great. So from the respondents, 12 were male and 18 were female. Way to go, girls. We got a higher response from the ladies, so thank you. And of course, there was one individual who chose not to share their gender. And with the second question, we've learned that 35% of our group who responded to the survey are licensed and practicing lawyers. 2% are licensed but not practicing lawyers, and the remaining are legal service. 58% are legal, sorry, that wasn't 2%, that was 35%, 6%, and then 58% are legal service providers, but not lawyers. When we look at the third question, which is how many years have you been a lawyer or other type of legal service provider, we've learned that 42% come within the 1 to 5 year bracket.
Okay, so almost half of them, almost half the people are
Yeah.
5 years or less. Almost half the people. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the remaining, I won't go into the details. Or can everyone see the results on their screen as well? No? Or is it just us who are the co-hosts? Okay.
No, they can see it. Yeah, they can see it. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
They see the
So,
poll results. Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
the
You can go through it. And what? Yeah.
Yeah, in the remaining, we have 10% within 6 to 10 years. But the second highest in all of this, the 35% who say it does not apply to them because they are not legal service providers. But thank you for being here today.
Yeah, and actually that's it. So we see of all the people, 35% actually are not, there's something, but maybe they're not legal service, or maybe they are legal service providers and they may not realize it, but that's okay. They have one person over 20 years. I would have added to that. John, you and I would have probably bumped that up over 20 years. So maybe
Yeah, we would have, but I didn't fill out the poll.
No, we didn't fill it out. We didn't fill it out. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Juanita, let's question number 4. Secretary, let's make sure they see question 4.
Yes, so question number 4 asks, if you are a licensed practicing lawyer, please describe your practice. And so we have over here the highest number coming in at 39%, which says it does not apply to them, following which there's 26%, which goes to other. Then we have 13% who say they are NGO lawyers, 3% that are in-house counsel, 3% that are government lawyers, 10% that are in a law firm that has more than 20 lawyers, 3% which are in law firms which have 11 to 20 lawyers, and the remaining 3% in law firms which have 6 to 10 lawyers.
Okay, so we see a question here that talks about if you're in a law firm, how big is your law firm? Then there's a question about, about government lawyers or NGOs or other, or clearly if you're not a licensed practicing. Fantastic. And we can see how many. Let's keep going. What's the next one? Yeah.
At the 5th question, we were all of you were asked, did you provide any hours of pro bono legal assistance without expectation of fee in the calendar year of 2022? However, this does not include those who employ or contract with you for pay. And in that, 52%, that's 16 out of 31 have said yes, and 15% have, 15, that is 48% have said no. So that's
okay, but let's look at that. Let's look at that, because we saw 35% of the people say they're not legal service providers. So of that, if you have 48% saying they don't do pro bono, if 35% of all of the people say they're not legal service providers, you actually have most of the people here saying they do some type of pro bono. That's great. That's actually really great. Okay, so you actually have much more than 52% of people that are actually some type of legal service provider doing pro bono.
Here's the
Let's keep it going.
The next
question 6. Yep.
Is on if you did provide pro bono legal assistance without expectation of fee in the calendar year of 2022, please indicate the number of hours provided without expectation of fee. And over here, the highest number goes to 45% of the group, that's 14 people who worked within 1 to 10 hours, followed by 32% who have said that this does not apply to them. And then 13%, that's 4 out of 31 people, have done more than 100 hours worth of pro bono in the last calendar, in the current calendar year. And then they are followed by 3% each within 11 to 20 hours, 21 to 30 hours, and 31 to 50 hours.
So interesting. So what we have for the people that have done pro bono, the highest is about between 1 to 10. But then the second highest is more than 100 hours. And then some people in between. That's actually pretty good. And the idea of institutionalizing is those people that are doing 1 to 10 hours, that's fine. With the buffet of pro bono we talked about, I'm sure we can have them be doing more. When they're realizing they're probably doing more pro bono, they don't even realize it. All right, next question.
The next question was, my pro bono hours focused on providing assistance in the following areas. And that is?
So this is the type of food, right? So when we talked about yesterday, the buffet of pro bono, the foods, this is the type of foods that they picked, okay? So these are the areas. So take us through that.
So the highest came to 13 people from 31 who make up 42% of our participants who worked in community legal awareness training. They were followed by 26% in criminal law, that's 8 out of 31, along with, again, 26% who said that the above answers do not apply to them. Then at 16%, that's 5 out of 31 people said they've worked in family law, followed by 13% who worked in immigration law, 10% in employment law, 10% in business law, and then we have those working in real estate and real estate or probate work at 3% each. And I think I've covered all the categories there.
Yeah, and that's actually
and then great. Other under 10% as well.
Yeah, and then, that's actually really great because you can see this is a wide buffet. There's a lot of different food of pro bono going on in here. It's not just all, one area. It is really a lot of different selections of food, and that's what we want to see. We want to see different areas that this is going on. Really great. Let's get to question 8.
So question 8 says, what would encourage you to do more pro bono hours? And the highest response we've got is at 48%, where there is training and mentoring. So 15 out of 31 participants say training and mentoring would encourage them. Then we have 29%, which says if my pro bono hours counted towards my billables. 26% that said having a variety of options to do pro bono, followed by 16%, which said if they had more encouragement or support from their law firm. And then we come to 13% at a clear policy at my law firm that helped to guide me. And also 13% at being recognized with an award for doing pro bono. And 3% said nothing. That's one person said nothing would encourage them because they do not believe in it.
Yeah, that happens. That's okay. That's okay. Even if you don't believe in pro bono, I'm sure you do other good stuff. But and that's okay. But I'm very glad if you look at this, a lot of other people are really doing it. And it is great to see that the mentoring, the training and the mentoring is probably, and that's often one of the greatest things to grow. We talked about growing pro bono. That's one of the greatest ways. All right. So that's how people suggest growing it. And let's look at the next one. This is for people who didn't do pro bono. I did not provide because, okay, well, if you weren't doing it in a certain area, why? And Juanita, let's take us through this. Yes.
And the reasons that came up are at 39%, they said they did not because it does not apply to me because I cannot read the entire.
They did it. This one says, no, this question doesn't apply because I actually did pro bono. That's what, yeah. So of that,
because I have,
they said, hey, I did it and I keep doing it, right? So they say, this question doesn't apply to me. So but for the people that weren't doing it or weren't doing it in certain areas,
and then at 29%, we have, that's 9 people said no opportunity was given to them to provide pro bono. And 9 people also said there were other reasons that they.
Let's go back to the no opportunity, because when we talked yesterday about the buffet and the different type of foods on that pro bono buffet, I'm hoping that if you did this in 6 months or in a few months and took this poll again, that would be less. Now that you'll have probably more of an idea of other opportunities, because there's so many opportunities, but we do understand that sometimes we don't even realize the opportunities. So, okay, let's take that forward.
Okay, and then we go to 19% that said they lack necessary skills or training. Then there is 13% who said they can't afford to do pro bono work. And then at 3% each, we have those who say that they do not have time to do pro bono. And then again at 3%, they say that specific rule or regulation prohibits participation in pro bono.
Okay. And those that said you don't have the time, you can't afford, look, I understand. I have, I'm a partner in a, not a huge law firm. Sometimes, you have to pay the bills, you have electricity, but I can tell you the time and can't afford. If you look at the variety of ways to do pro bono, even if it's a couple of days a year, a couple of hours, a couple of days a year, usually you could find the time and ways to afford it. Remember, it doesn't have to be representing clients. It could be training people, mentoring. It could be legal education awareness. There's so many ways in a year of 365 days at 24 hours in a day. We really hope that you're going to be inspired to find some time and at the same time not lose money by doing this. But okay, good. And let's get to the next question, the last question.
And the last question says, have you provided financial support to legal services for people who cannot afford them, or provided financial support to access to justice organizations or initiatives? And the response there was 10 out of 31, that makes it 32% said yes. 21 out of 31, that's 68% said no.
Okay, yeah. And some, in some systems, maybe people don't have the time, but they have the money and they donate in, or they do pro bono and they also help to support. You don't always have to do that, but it's really great to see, wow, 32% of the people actually provided some financial support, for this, which is great. And we understand that you may not be able to, that's fine. You could use your time. It doesn't have to be money. Some people are in a better position, to be able to do this. All right. So that's great. And I'm going to say, everybody, I think we should put a thumbs up because you just reported on pro bono. We could end the session now and we could show you've shown, because often we talk to people and we say, do you report? They're like, oh, I don't know how to report. Or they say, I live in a country impossible to report. And I'm like, it isn't. All you need is a phone. All you need is a cell phone. You need a cell phone. People order food on cell phones. If you could order food, you could report your pro bono hours, and this information that we gave you actually comes from a lot of examples of the ways to actually report. So this was an example of it. With that said, I'm now going to pass this over to John, and John's going to actually give you, John has been involved in amazing work in Australia. And he's going to talk to you a little bit about the pro bono work that they've been doing there and the different types. Okay. So, but before that, if everybody, can we just do this one more time? If you're able to turn your camera on or whatever, everybody, let's give yourself a thumbs up and let's give yourself a clap. A thumbs up and a clap. Thumbs up and a clap. You did great. And with that, let's hear a little bit about John's experience in Australia, which actually has, a very useful type of reporting pro bono system. John, over to you.
Thank you, Bruce. There is a PowerPoint too. I don't know whether,
Yep.
Oh yeah, there it is. Look, maybe just go on to the first slide. Beyond that, you'll recognize where that is. That's right outside
That's outside our door right now.
That's right, it's a hotel. For those of you who aren't in Vientiane, that's what it looks like. How do I move on to the next?
No, they need to.
Next
next
move on
slide.
to the next slide.
Just
Please.
next slide.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so there's quite a few. Look, I'm just going to start off by saying reporting drives pro bono. There's probably the main message is two things drives the growth of pro bono. I've been involved in this space for, coming on close to 20 years, I suppose. And one is reporting. It really does. And people look at how others are reporting. There is a competitive element. Oh, I'm doing more than you, whatever. But the other part is obviously the inspiration. It's the stories. It's the stories of who's been helped, how good it was, how good it felt to help somebody, how stimulating it was, how you gain new skills and services. But when you're looking at the overall picture for growing pro bono at your own level, at an individual level or at your law firm level or at a country level, reporting is an essential part of that. So maybe next slide, I think, and then we can, it's not very complicated here, but that's the main message. So what is reported, as we just did in the survey a moment ago, the poll, it was hours mainly. That's the main measure that's used right throughout the world. And for firms that have got a lot of lawyers, it becomes hours per lawyer per year. That seems to be the primary measurement for pro bono right throughout the world. And as we've seen, there are different types of pro bono, doing different types of helping people, different types of law. But there's also different definitions of pro bono too, but we might talk about that in a minute, because on the one hand, we say, let's have a very broad definition of pro bono, which is very much the approach that's been taken by this conference ever since the start. It's very inclusive. Everybody is included in terms of the idea of doing pro bono work. But when it comes to counting it and comparing it, which is as it progresses, then there does need to be some sort of metrics, some sort of description of what is counted and what isn't. And the other primary reporting thing really from around the world from the existing systems is how many lawyers are doing pro bono. So if you've got maybe a firm of 100 lawyers, you might say, okay, well, 65 of our lawyers did more than 1 hour of pro bono this year. So it's what's called a participation rate. So we've got 65% of the lawyers doing pro bono, and that's a measure of how strong the culture is in that law firm to do pro bono legal work. So that's the participation rate. You see that in the English systems, and you see that in the American and the Australian systems. So they're probably the two main measures. Hours, how many hours did I do? How many hours per lawyer in a firm? And then how many lawyers actually did any pro bono work at all? Okay, so that's the reporting. Next slide, please.
So Johnny,
Okay.
you're saying if a firm had like 10 lawyers, they look at how many hours per lawyer, and then out of the 10, how many of those 10 are actually doing work, right?
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. Two different things. So a firm of 10 lawyers might say, okay, this year we've done 150 hours altogether, and that works out to 15 hours per lawyer. But in fact, only 3 lawyers did that work. All the lawyers, there was only 3 lawyers doing all that pro bono work. So that's why it's only 30% of the lawyers did pro bono work, but they did 150 hours. So they're different measurements.
Got it.
But they're both important. So for example, when you see here on this next slide, the UK Collaborative Plan, which is a target where lawyers try and do 25 hours per lawyer per year. Actually, part of the target is not just the 25 hours per lawyer, but it's also trying to say we want at least 50% of your lawyers, at least half of the lawyers in the firm should have done some pro bono work this year, at least 1 hour, just a little bit. But it just shows that the whole firm has a culture of supporting pro bono work. So you see it very much in that. Now, I'm going to leave the Global Trust Law Index of Pro Bono for Jonita to talk about. She might want to talk about that now, how that works. I don't want to get into too much detail. We don't want to get lost in the detail of the different schemes either, Bruce. I think it's, particularly for this audience, it's enough to know that there are these key counting mechanisms around the world, and maybe draw out some of the differences. I'll draw out one important difference, I think, because what I want to do, or want people to think about, is what's an appropriate reporting mechanism for you? What is an appropriate reporting mechanism for you, your law firm, your country? What's going to work? And maybe, if there's some work done over time, maybe we report it through this conference. One idea might be that everybody who attends this conference fills out a pro bono reporting sheet as part of the conference, and we report on that every year. There's different ways of doing this, but it does need someone to collect and coordinate that information, and that's why Anita will talk to you about the role that trust law plays in that regard. One other key difference I wanted to just draw out is perhaps between the American Lawyer 200 and the UK or the Australian pro bono target. Well, it's the same with trust law too, isn't it? It's an aspirational target.
Yeah.
And it's de-identified, or?
They have identified.
They have identified. Yeah, one of the issues that floats around is, and the Australians have been quite strong about this, it's a pity I can't show you a graph, but really everybody reports to the Australian Pro Bono Centre and also to the Australian government, interestingly. If they want to do work for government, they have to do some pro bono, and they have to report to government on how much pro bono they've done. It's a condition of being a law firm who provides legal advice to government. Then as a condition of that, it's reported, but it's reported without the names of the firm. So it just becomes firm 1, firm 2, firm 3, firm 4. And the idea of that is that it's more, people aren't quite so competitive. They're more collegiate. They're more friendly in the pro bono space. because it's not an overt competition about I'm better than you. It's not about I'm better than you. It's actually about, isn't this great that we're all working together and we all share this really important value as lawyers of being able to help people that are less advantaged than us and really need our help. So there's a difference in attitude. The American lawyer is done through a magazine, and they highly publicize the person who's at the top of their ladder, and they say whiten case, or
Ours is not identified. It's
Yeah.
an anonymous one.
yeah. So trust law is an anonymous one too. So that's an interesting issue to think about. And quite honestly, I think if you're starting a new system, it's probably good to have it anonymous because you're trying to grow it. You don't want that, you know, I'm better than you attitude. It's not conducive. It doesn't help start off a new system. It's much more about, isn't this great? We all share the same value. So that's a key difference. Let's just have a look what's on the next slide. Please, thank you. There's another example there of reporting. One's in Singapore, and this applies to law students, and this is probably quite of some interest to some of the people that are here today. When you first, you know, if you want to become a lawyer, and some people might not, you know, legal service providers are not necessarily lawyers, as we know, but if you're going to be admitted to practice by a court, to practice law, both in Singapore and in New York City, you have to have done a number of pro bono hours as a precondition to admission.
So that's a must. That's a must.
It's
right?
a must.
When we're talking about, yeah, that's a must.
Yeah, it's a must. So that's another example of reporting. You must report how many pro bono hours you've done to the court, and the court has to be satisfied that in New York, for example, that you've done 50 hours before it will give you a practicing certificate. So that applies in Singapore as well. That's an Asian example. And when law firms do legal work for government, they have to, in Australia, they have to sign up to the Australian pro bono aspirational target, or the Australian pro bono target, which is 35 hours per lawyer per year. That's the other thing. The targets vary a fair bit. In England, it's 25 hours per lawyer, so under the Global Trust Law Index. In America, it's sort of 50 hours. In Australia, it's 35 hours. So you often will, you know, choose a target that you think will work for your system, but you almost need to do some research before you can set that target.
And John, just a quick, and then we're going to move on to Janita. But you're talking about targets. These are suggested goals, right? Targets. When we're using the word target, we mean these are suggested. Usually, it's suggested goals of how many hours. Is that right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
They're only suggested roles. They're only targets in a
They're
sense.
not musts. They're may.
They're not musts. They're may.
Yeah, they're not musts.
They're not
They're
musts.
mays.
They're not
Okay.
musts. They're saying, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be fantastic if we could do this many hours? You know, let's set ourselves a goal. Let's set ourselves something that we think maybe we can do. Maybe not this year, maybe next year, maybe the year after. But that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
And then when you get really good, you actually go beyond it. That's what's happened in Australia. You know, the target was introduced in 2006. So it's been around for, 16 years. And now most firms exceed the target. They do more than the target. And that's, you know, the way in which the system has grown and developed. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So, I mean, these are some really, so we see here from John, we have, you know, who reports, you have the individual lawyer, you have the firms, it's what they're reporting on, the hours, the how many people in the firm and other things. We see that they, you know, some places, you know, a lot of it is not a must, but a may, but then there are, in Australia, if you want to do work for the government, there's a must, you have to report the hours you're doing. They're not saying you must do hours, but you must report it. Singapore, you want a practicing certificate, you got it. There are musts, and then there are what we call targets, which are more suggested ideas.
Yeah.
So with that, how about we move on to John? That was fantastic. And now let's move on to what I think trust law, because they've been doing amazing work in this reporting area. So
Bruce, I noticed this just before you.
Question. sorry, you can keep talking.
Jonita starts because she's looking up something. I'm just going to respond to that question in the chat that says, wouldn't it be great if we could share a template which is used in other parts of the world? I think it was Rashani asked that question. And that's what we're looking up now. We're just looking up the trust law reporting form. And they're often, I don't know how many questions.
There are about 21 questions.
21 questions. In Australia, I think there are only about 10 or maybe even only 8 questions. We try and keep it really simple.
And Rashani, if you wanted to use the questions we used in the poll we started with today, that's fine. That's actually, if that's what you use, just those 10 questions we had, that's a great start. So again, the more complicated you make it, it's great. But I find the more complicated, the less people are going to do it. So maybe you start with smaller, and we're happy to have you steal what we started with. And after this, Trust Law can share with you and other things. That would be, we'd happy to do that.
Yeah. I mean, and quite honestly, Bruce, I think the Australian reporting form is simpler than the poll we had today.
Yeah, I think it is.
You know, it's like, how many hours have you done? How many hours maybe you did? You know, not much more than that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Start simple and work up. Simple and work up. Fantastic. Thank you. Great question, Rashani.
We're going to we'll try and put a link in the chat, won't we?
To a reporting format. We'll try and look up. I'll check out and see if the Australian one you're referring to, if that's simpler. Then that may be a good one to adopt.
Yeah. Okay. We're working on that in the background.
Okay. Let's get the trust law example perspective.
Let me say, it's quite fun doing it side by side. It's actually, this is the perfect hybrid between the real conference and the virtual conference. The fact that we're sort of here together is a lovely thing. Yeah.
And you make a lovely couple.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you. We're powering for pro bono over here. So just before I begin, just letting everyone know, if we suddenly drop off, that's because the battery of my laptop may go off, but we have a plug point just there, so it may take us 2 minutes to kind of connect back again. But with that, I mean, or should we just move to that corner there? Yeah. Okay. Maybe we
might power up.
Yeah, we're going to connect, and you're going to get a little bit of a view of the room that's next to us. Yeah. So.
This is sort of pro bono in action.
Yeah. Sorry. I didn't think my battery of the laptop would go so quick.
You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. You're doing great.
There we go. Okay. We're back online.
Yay.
Sorry, John, do you want to pull that chair?
There. You sit down.
Okay, and you pull that chair? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so there we are. We're back again.
Let's put up the Trust Law PowerPoint.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Trust Law PowerPoint.
You have John back here with me. So great. So thank you, John, actually, for setting the stage for this conversation. I think you left us at a very interesting point over there. And Roshni, thank you for asking about the checklist. I'm going to look through my documents and see if I find one of our formats that are ready that I can share with you. And I'll also look for the Australian one, and we'll find a way to share that. If we don't manage to do it before this session ends, we'll find a way to get it emailed to everyone who participated in the session. So yes, so coming to the next slide, which is the different methods of reporting that Trust Law has actually picked up. Of course, you've heard of the index of pro bono, which we mentioned a little earlier. We also look at a form of needs assessment checking, and I will explain that in a little bit as to why I've considered it within the pro bono reporting scope. Feedback gathering, which is something that is extremely helpful, especially from the clearinghouse point of view. Impact stories, and then I'm going to hand it back over to John to tell you a little bit more about the collaborative plan UK. So with that, we'll move to the next slide, please. Right. So the Trust Law Index of Pro Bono. Now, the Trust Law Index of Pro Bono was the first global survey that measures the amount of pro bono practiced by law firms across the world. As we mentioned a little earlier, it is an anonymous survey that's sent across to all of the members of Trust Law. So those are law firms who have signed up for our membership, and there are quite a few of them actually in Trust Law. It's most of the leading global law firms are members of Trust Law, and then there are leading domestic law firms that are also members of Trust Law, which have kind of helped us identify, different categories of law firms that work in pro bono across the globe. Just to kind of give you a number to that, there are over 1,000 law firms in Trust Law membership. So that's a very big pool of people. And then, so some of the features of the Index of Pro Bono, of course, is that it highlights the successful pro bono programs and provides benchmarks on pro bono participation and related trends in different jurisdictions. And it's, of course, a very vital tool in helping spread the practice of pro bono, because I was talking to John about this a little earlier yesterday, where we were just saying, and I think we kind of agreed upon it, that it's important to know where you're headed, and it's important to know what you achieve in order to understand the value of the effort that you're kind of putting into something. And that's why it becomes helpful in spreading the practice of pro bono, because then you're able to put numbers to it. Today, the whole idea of doing that reporting piece with you was to kind of gauge what the audience's impact in pro bono is. And only when you see the numbers do you really realize how far or how close we are to our goal of spreading pro bono. So what the Index of Pro Bono does is it offers all firms a unique resource to help build robust pro bono practices and to understand how to get the greatest impact from their work. We'll go to the next slide. It gives you a bit of a visual for the kind of coverage we do. I noted a question that's come into the chat on what is the criteria to become a member of Trust Law. So I will send a link to our membership, which tells you the criteria. And otherwise, if you can visit the Trust Law website and you'll get to know more about how to be a member of Trust Law. But I'll come back to that later. So as you can see on this slide, we've covered 91 jurisdictions, over 215 law firms, and they've reported 3.96 million hours of pro bono work, and 150,000 lawyers have responded to the survey. So this is the numbers that we've gathered. Yes, Bruce's firm, Nana Lawyers, is one of our trusted members at Trust Law. And these are the numbers we gathered in 2020. The next Index of Pro Bono comes out this year. And it's a helpful gauge, right, to just understand the extent and the expanse of pro bono across the globe. With that, I will move to the needs assessment survey. And the reason the needs assessment survey is kind of featured over here, we had our doubts about whether it fitted pro bono reporting, but the only reason I've included it in here is because it was the way for Trust Law to identify what the gaps are to in the pro bono reporting system and in the pro bono implementation system. And that also becomes a way for us to understand where do law firms see they need to be able to speak more about their work, or where they want more support to be able to practice pro bono and practice it effectively. So that's what we've done in 2021, and we've kind of held needs assessments in every once in 2 years so we don't focus on it so much, but it's something we do to understand reporting in pro bono. Next slide, please. So as I said, yes, there's indirect collection of information biannually, and we basically focus on what works, what didn't work, and what are your pain points. Thank you, Emmanuel, for sharing the link to membership criteria for Trust Law. For the person who asked about that, you can use that link and read more about how to become a member of Trust Law. It's an absolutely free membership. Next slide, please. So an important part of our work is also gathering feedback. So as most of you may know, Trust Law actually works as a clearinghouse. So we have a membership base of law firms and lawyers, and then we have a membership base of social enterprises and NGOs. And what we do is we connect the social enterprises to lawyers who are keen to do pro bono, and they work together to either support them through research requests or advisory requests. Now, when we talk about feedback, we gather feedback at 3 stages. One is at the initial feedback stage when we connect them, and within the first month of being connected, we try and check in to say, how has it been? How are the lawyers treating you? Or how's the social enterprise or NGO responding to you? Are they responsive? Are they getting started on the request? Then we have an interim feedback, which looks at midway through the project. We ask for feedback once again to know how it's going and whether the project has progressed. And then when we hear from the social enterprise that the project is completed, we ask for final feedback so that they tell us what their responses were. Now, this is more of a qualitative way of reporting, just to understand what the experience of the law firm has been in carrying out pro bono, and what the experience of the client, that is the social enterprise or NGO, has been while receiving pro bono. And it's one of those aspects that I know often stays as internal data, but it's still important, especially from the clearinghouse perspective. And that's what Trust Law does in terms of gathering pro bono information and information on pro bono provision. The final one, sorry, not the final, but the penultimate one on the list, next slide, is the impact stories. And impact stories are extremely important. I think we've been hearing this on and off. Just understanding that there is impact from pro bono makes a very big difference. And I was telling John yesterday, I think one of the ways to know why impact is important is you can keep watering a plant, but if you don't see it grow, you don't know whether water is what that plant needs. The plant could need fertilizer, or the plant could just need to be taken out of the pot and put into the ground. But you won't know if you keep doing the same thing and you don't assess whether there's been impact, right? So that's why we do impact stories as a way of pro bono reporting. And I think one of the poll responses was, if you were awarded or you were rewarded, you'd be more motivated to do pro bono. Impact stories are a way of indirectly awarding the law firm or the lawyers who have worked for pro bono, because it puts out your story, whether it's on your firm website or whether it's through clearinghouses like Trust Law. We also use impact stories to motivate people on the way pro bono can help and make a difference. And so that's another key way of reporting pro bono that has been adopted. The next slide that is there comes to the UK collaborative plan for pro bono. Now, basically, well, what has happened with the UK collaborative plan, and I know John can speak into this more, but I'll just leave you with a small gist that Trust Law administers and supports the data sharing process for the UK collaborative plan for pro bono, and the UK collaborative plan has adopted Trust Law's definition of pro bono. So it's the same definition that we use in the index of pro bono, and that's the connection to the UK collaborative plan for us. It is a profession-led initiative, and its membership comprises of law firms. And with that, I will hand it back over to John to tell us a little bit more about the UK collaborative plan and its origins.
Okay, that was fantastic, Juanita. I mean, the key point out of that, I think, is coming back to my original message, and it's the message from both of us, is that reporting is not just about hours, it's also about impact. You need both sides of the reporting equation to let other people know, and to let the people know that are doing the work what difference they're making. It's the beautiful analogy of if you see the plant grow, you will water it, but if you don't see the plant grow, maybe you won't water it. And so you've got to see what it is that you're doing and report on the impact of it. So I think that's a great thing. Look, you've said the UK collaborative plan, you've described pretty well. It was a profession-led initiative. It came from one firm who had seen the Australian experience, and UK pro bono had been led for a long time actually by government and by the bar, and the profession finally stood up and said, okay, we're going to have our own target and our own little reporting mechanism. And that was a bit of a breakthrough for the UK legal profession, and particularly some of the large global law firms who were, they examined it and then they joined it. And ever since it started, their numbers have gone up every year, which is fantastic. And as I said before, it's half of it's hours and half of it is participation rate, how many lawyers in the firm actually do some pro bono. So that's a reflection of the culture of that law firm. So I don't know whether I need to say much more about the UK collaborative plan.
You wanted to draw on the connection of health except in the
I think we're good. About 1 more minute. I think we're gonna. I want to hear.
It's very
from some
similar.
Other people. Yeah.
It's very similar to the Australian pro bono target. And so that's really the model. That's probably the most prominent now in the world because of the Global Trust Law Index, which is the only index that covers all countries in the world. So
wonderful. So again, we see again more about targets, the idea of reporting stories, pro bono story, impact stories.
Can you speak up a bit, Bruce, or maybe?
Yeah.
Are you hearing me now?
Now we can.
Better?
Yeah,
Okay, you hearing me now? Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, the idea of growing pro bono and institutionalizing pro bono by reporting pro bono stories is just, so another reason to report. That almost gets into a must be reporting stories to continue to institutionalize and grow pro bono. And this is really at a, trust law is really just done magnificent at showing at a global level, this reporting, and I said, and even my own law firm, Lana Lawyers, in Chiang Mai reports into this index, which is great.
Yeah, I think we should talk about reporting in the Asian region, Bruce. Like yours is a great example. Lana Lawyers, there's a law firm as part of the Trust Law Index. It's reporting. I don't know how many other Asian law firms there are that do that.
So that's actually going to be my next question. So everybody, can we get you to do this? Everybody, let me see you do this. Everybody, I want to see you do this. Everybody, let's get you to do this. Okay. So this is what I want you to do in the chat, because I'm going to tell you about my example, my reporting. But before I talk about me, I want to talk about you. Everybody point to yourself. Point to yourself. Everybody point to yourself. Okay. And I want you to do this. So in the chat, can you write in if you report your pro bono work? And if you do, what country you are, what you report, and who you reported to do, who you reported to. Okay. In the chat, do you report your pro bono work?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. What you report and who you reported to in the chat. I'm going to give you about 1 minute. Okay. So, okay.
And who you reported to,
and
please.
who you reported to. Okay. Do you report your pro bono work? What you report, do you report it? What you report, and who do you report it to?
Yeah, because that's where the question about, can we have a format to report pro bono? Then it.
Okay, about 30 more seconds. Yep. Okay. So Jessica, she reports to Trust Law, which is great. Yep, perfect. And UKCP, fantastic. We've got in Lao, in Lao, some people, there's a requirement to report, there's sort of a must, but we see in Lao, which is great, they really want to improve their reporting system. They've got requirements to do pro bono, but they're working on a better reporting system, and they're getting there. but it needs to be strong. I think Suda, who's a great lawyer in Laos and does pro bono, really points that out. The Nepal Bar Association, I know they report. And Roshni, what do they report to the Nepal Bar Association? You report your hours, your type. What do you report? Your pro bono hours, the cases. That's the question for Nepal.
Okay, thank
Sam
you.
says in Malaysia, you've got so you report and you get your continuing professional development point for reporting. So that's required to keep licenses, which is great. Okay. Yeah, great. Okay. Yeah, in Nepal, it's new. Reporting is new in Nepal, but I'll tell you, part of it's come out of, they came to the Pro Bono conference for a number of years, went back, and the Bar Association took this on. They're growing it. It's beginning stages, but they're growing, which is fantastic. Okay. And if you look in the chat, they just dropped the Asia Pro Bono reporting format, which is probably even easier, as John pointed out, than the poll we asked you to take. Okay.
There's an important thing, and it is that the form has to be created for the circumstances. So there's a couple of questions in the Australian form that really are only relevant to Australia. There's one about paralegals, how much paralegals do. Now, you might think that's important, but it depends on who's reporting in the first place. Clearly important, but whether that's something you want to emphasize in your form or not is a question for your, where pro bono's at in your jurisdiction, how much it's developed and what the issues are. And the other question's about significantly reduced fee pro bono, what people are calling low bono.
More like the low,
like the low bono. Confuse things, but I'm just saying that's a specific issue that's come up in Australia that's crept into that form. So again, if it's your jurisdiction, your country, you need to think about what are the best questions, to explore how things are going on and what the growth is, what the issues are, without laying too many questions in front of, because you want people to fill it out. You want lots of people to fill it out. It's like the survey, the poll we just did a moment ago, and we're counting the numbers, 29, 30, 31, 10 questions is almost too many, but well done, everybody.
All right, everyone. So yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Bruce, but just to pick up from what
I'm actually going to just move it a little bit forward because we have a limited amount of time, and I just want to, it's okay. I know we could talk about this a lot, but I just want to move it. Okay, so it appreciates, and if we want to come back, so so we see in the form, we see in the chat that we have a number of countries that are doing it. Some people are do pro bono, but they're not quite sure how to report it, and I think that this is kind of what we're focusing on, not how to report and who to report, and the forms and all this stuff is really, really important. Okay, so with that, I'm going to now talk a little bit, just briefly, about me. So I'm going to show you this. Can everyone see this? Can you see this? Can you see what I'm holding up? Okay, what do you think this is? I'm holding it up. Put in the chat if you think you know what this is. I'm going to take off my background. Okay, I'm going to take off my background so you can actually see it better. Hang on, let's see. Let's see. Okay. What do you think this is? It's my lawyer ID. It's my Bar Association card. Okay, great. Okay. So here we're going to do some math. Okay. You ready? I'm 55 years old. I'm 55 years old. I've been practicing. I've been practicing for 31 years. 31 years. I'm 55. I've been practicing for 31 years. What year did I get my Bar Association card? I'm 55. I've been practicing. I'm 55 years old. What year? Not how old was I? What year did I get my Bar Association card? I'm 55.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been practicing for 31 years. We can't really do math, but that's okay. Okay.
Oh, there's some controversy.
Yeah, it's math. Okay. So my card says I've been a member since, you ready, everyone? I'm putting in the chat, and I think I did the math right. Okay, 1991. My card, I've been a member since 1991. of the Florida bar. Okay, 1991, I've been a member. Every year I've done my continuing education. Every year I pay into my bar. And a number of years ago, Florida required a must pro bono reporting
mandatory pro bono reporting.
Mandatory. So if I can we put up my PowerPoint now? Everybody, let's put up my PowerPoint now. Just real brief. Okay, I'm going to show you what they require in my state. There's 50 states in the United States. It's different in each state. Okay. Each state has a different system. This is okay. So let's keep it there. This is the website of the Florida, okay? The Florida bar. They have a website. And if you look, this is my account. If you look really close, this is my account. Okay. And I went in there today. I'm a member in good standing. You know, I pay, I do my continuing legal education, and I also report. And every single year, I go onto the website. Doesn't take me long. Okay. And I go onto the website. Let's go to the next slide, everyone. The next slide. Okay, in Florida, to keep this license, I must report. But everybody do this. Everybody make a 0 with your fingers. Everybody make a 0. Okay. I can report that I do 0 hours. I can do that.
Yeah.
I can do that. I don't, because I don't. But I'm allowed to. I could put a 0, but I don't. I actually, let's go to the next slide. Okay. Because these are frequently asked questions. You don't need to see this in detail, but I'm telling you, this tells me how to report and what I need to report. And in the end, you know, I may report 100 hours or 200 hours a year. I don't think I've ever reported 0. We could take the PowerPoint off. You could take it off now. We could take it off. Okay. But basically, I must report. And I'm proud to. If I don't report, they take my license. They take it. And I'm not allowed to go, you know, well, they don't take it first. They give me a lot of notice and they'll suspend it, you know, and stuff. And I don't, you know, but it really is, when we talked about this morning, the Bar Association responsibility for supporting pro bono. This is great. I have no problem. The reporting is mandatory, but doing pro bono is not mandatory. And I will tell you, when we talk about targets, this is a way to encourage people to do it. And there really is not a big problem with Florida lawyers complaining about this. You know, most of them don't. And this is a really great way to inspire and grow pro bono. So you don't have to do pro bono, but you must report. And that's another may and must. And, you know, and each year I do, and I'm proud. You know, and then I go back each year and I think about how many hours did I do, and oh my gosh, you know, sometimes I think I should do I never think I should do less pro bono. But this is an example. And I can tell you, it takes me 5 minutes. I go with my cell phone. I can get onto the website and I can easily report. So if you're in a country like Laos or Nepal or, you know, Vietnam, or it's easy to set up this reporting system. It's easy. And it's as simple as using the questions that we started with today, or even less questions. And that's how easy it is to report. And you know what? They don't really take many people's licenses for not doing it, because people report. And that's it. So that's my experience. That's the trust law experience. That's John's experience. Juanita, you're going to talk about some other things, or we have about 12 minutes left. Does
Bruce,
anybody
can I just ask you how many questions are on your reporting form when you renew your license?
It's can you tell me how many hours of pro bono?
So it's 2 questions. Do you do it? If so, how many? That's it. Just the 2 questions.
Wow. Okay, that's easy.
It's not even do you do it, and you know that's the question, right? So you have to, but you have to put something. You got to put a 0 or more.
An important point is, around the world, That's probably the most common pro bono reporting mechanism that exists. So for
may
all of the single states and all the states in Australia do the same thing. They don't even give you a definition of pro bono. They just say, have you done any pro bono work? If so, how much did you do? So that's probably the simplest and most common model of pro bono reporting right around the world.
And let me be clear, thanks, Sean, because I have to go back and look at the form. I haven't gone back and looked, but it's pretty much one or two questions. So it's exactly what you said. They don't get really into much more detail. Roshni, you had a question?
Yes.
Is there a formal reward mechanism of pro bono? You mean in Florida? Is there a reward? I can tell you absolutely a lot of local bar associations, not the main Florida bar, but a lot of local bar associations give rewards for people for reporting. And that's different. So there's a reporting, and that happens in different places. So a lot of smaller local bar associations will have ceremonies and honor people for doing, for high level of pro bono work. I don't know in Australia if they do that in other places. I bet they probably do some places, but it's a really great way to inspire people and to get that reporting in. So that's a great question.
I think we got another question from Tip that came in, which said, in relation to reporting, do we have to prove the pro bono service?
Great question, Tip. Much of it is built on trust. I've never seen the bar associate. I hold a license. I'm supposed to tell the truth. That's part. If I don't want to tell the truth, I really shouldn't be a lawyer. But there's not, a mechanism in Florida where that I know of, where they come and say, prove it. It's different for my continuing legal education. In Florida, I do this and I have to put in codes for the courses and in some systems, like in Australia, the reporting of continuing legal education is really, I think it's an honor system. They don't necessarily check that much. And John, you may know, but for the pro bono, they ask you to put it, they have not asked to come back and prove it. Great question. But in some systems, like in Lao, Tip, as they're a bit more specific. So you can put in a proving system, but remember, you have to be careful, because there's also, if it's pro bono that's it's a buffet. Pro bono could be a buffet. It doesn't have to be working with clients, but if it is working with clients, there are confidentiality issues. So if they're requiring in the reporting to give up things related to confidentiality, that needs to be dealt with, because you should not give up confidential issues related to clients. You could talk generally.
Jump in very quickly to add what I was thinking of saying then. I think we got quite a few questions about, who are you reporting to and where are you reporting to? And I just wanted to address the point about who are you reporting to? Well, if there are organizations or bar associations that you need to report to, then that's that mandatory reporting. But if as a firm, you're new to pro bono and you want to kind of establish a system, a policy of pro bono within the firm, then it's a great time to kind of look at different resources that are available. One example is the Championing Pro Bono Guide, which Trust Law has developed, which allows you to develop your pro bono policy for the firm. And in that, you can highlight what are the things that are important in pro bono for you, including what your client criteria would be for pro bono. And once you have that, that gives you a way to report, because that will set your foundation on the areas you want to report on, or the metrics you want to measure. So I think that is a step for at least those who are either lawyers who are working independently or part of smaller firms that have not yet, kind of established a very well-constructed kind of pro bono infrastructure for yourselves. I think that is a place to start, if that is where your question was directed.
And I'll add into that, law firms can require their own lawyers to report internally. Our firm, on your timesheets, people could put, we require, if you're doing pro bono, you put it on your timesheets, and we're able to then track the pro bono work people are doing. And that's a type of reporting. So who do you report to? You may report just inside your firm. We don't have to give that information, but when trust law asks us how much pro bono work we do, I can go back and get that information. So you could report, and that's again the must and the may, But we find that our firm is committed to doing pro bono. I know in Lao, Sudha's on this. She and her firm does a lot of pro bono. So require your lawyers to internally report. You don't have to give that information out, but at least you kind of want to know that. So I mean, so there is a lot of, and as John said before, who do you report to? In Australia, if you want to get government work, and you're a law firm, they ask you, to report what kind of pro bono you're doing, so that so be thinking about this, but don't look at reporting as a negative thing. It's not a negative thing. Reporting helps. Reporting helps in so many ways. It should not be a burden. It's an aid. And if it's done right and developed right, it's really a positive thing.
Yeah. Bruce, I just thought of one other little side issue which might be interesting, which is there's been debates about whether or not one should report the financial value of the pro bono. In other words, how much was it worth? And whether or not that's a better or different reporting mechanism to the number of hours. Now, generally the view around the world has been no, an hour is an hour is an hour, and it's much better to report the hours you've worked rather than trying to put a value on it. But what happens is whenever a bar association or a law society does a survey about the amount of pro bono work that their members have been contributing to society and how wonderful they are, their media release always comes out with $40 million worth of pro bono work delivered by our lawyers. So it's an interesting point just to sort of bear in mind that, people have put a lot of thought into what is the fundamental building block of reporting, and it's usually hours per lawyer. But coming back to the same message again, it's not enough by itself. You've got to be able to see the impact of it. You've got to be able to tell stories
and a value
pro bono work as well, because that's what makes it grow. That's what inspires lawyers to do more of it. So
no, it's true. And putting a value onto it, often we'll say, and we did it yesterday when we were talking about the Sealy mock trial work that we do in partnership with so many law firms. We said, we talked about the development of the materials. We looked at it's like 6 lawyers working 1 year to develop the materials. And if you actually look at the firms they come from, 6 lawyers working 1 year straight time. If we put the amount that they potentially charge, we could, it's an excessive amount. It's not too much, it's a lot. Look, whatever it is,
and quite honestly, its value is not that much. I mean, law firms might charge out at $500 an hour, and if you multiply that, it becomes a ridiculous amount of money.
I'm not saying they're ridiculous in what they charge. We're not saying that.
No, we're not saying that, but we are saying it doesn't represent the real value of that work.
Well, I actually think it does, because I think the work that they do with us is almost is like beyond that value of the impact. It's cheap, but we understand what we're saying. So everyone, listen. I don't know if there's any other questions. We have which bar association should use the reporting lawyers. Again, these are questions we have in Lao. I think in Lao that's going to be a real focus on how to strengthen the reporting here, but. You're doing it in a lot of different countries. Let's continue to do it at your firm, do it at your local bar association, look at the trust law index, join trust law as a member. Please do this. So many different ways. And you're going to see, we're going to have a closing session here on our pro bono pledges in the next session. We do this with the Asia Pro Bono Conference, and people write in on their pledges, and that's going to be the next session in our closing session today. So with that, I really want to thank Janita and John for being, really amazing collaborators in this. I thought this really fun session that we keep building on, and I think we're going to keep building on this year to year. It's really important. And of course, the secretariat team that was magnificent. And but with that, we have our secret double secret word, refugee, for those that are reporting. You got to report to get your certificate, right? That's right. This is a type of reporting. You want that certificate. You got to show that you attended this session. You got that secret magic word. So with that, everybody, thank you all. We're going to take a break for about 30 minutes, and then we're going into our closing ceremony here. Okay. See everybody soon online again. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bruce.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, everybody.
He jumped off. That
That's good.
was
Nice session.